All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And guys, in today's video, we're gonna be tackling part two of the. Let me set up my chair like a bum right now. We're gonna be tackling part two of the preparing for nationals video. Sorry, guys, if I seem a little tired today, I am. We're gonna be conquering or tackling part two of the preparing for nationals video. And I know this is absolutely last second because Nationals, I think, starts tomorrow on Friday, or maybe it's on Saturday. I can't remember. But it's basically about to start at the time you're recording this video and putting it out. But hopefully this helps somebody preparing for Nationals. And if not, hopefully it prepares people who are just trying to prepare against the meta in their locals, right? Trying to prepare against Sakazuki, Enel, and Purple Luffy in their locals. So, guys, let's go ahead and dive straight into it. This is going to be a brainstorming style theory crafting video. So, I really just want to hop right into it. Let's get started. So I've got this all color-coded for a specific reason. We're going to go over it here. So the green stuff right here, don't worry, I'll fix it. Let's go like this. That's kind of cool, I guess. Then we'll put on the opacity. We'll put it at 55%. I don't think we need this. There we go. Okay, so right away, Sakazuki, all the green stuff is meta. This is what you can pretty much plan on seeing at locals all the time, and definitely at nationals, right? So we got Sakazuki, Enel, Luffy, and Katakuri. So how are we going to deal with this, right? That's the question. Well, we've got some options on here. And guys, if you haven't seen my original video, the part one of this, definitely go check that out. So I do a deep dive into each one of these leaders. So I'm going to kind of be referencing that a little bit, or at least alluding back to some of the stuff I said there in this video. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. And if your leader's not on here, I do apologize. These are the leaders that I saw as the best possible ways to basically sneak games against the meta decks currently. And we're going to be talking about some cards that they're probably not going to see coming potentially. So let's keep going. So these green decks right here that I have highlighted, these are meta. These are what everyone's going to be playing. Okay. Next up is these yellow decks. Like how are we supposed to deal with because that's the question, right? How are we supposed to deal with these the current meta? Well, the first option is actually all-out aggression, right? That's typically a good option, right? It's just pure, unadulterated, raw aggression. And that's what you see with all these yellow cards, okay? All these yellow leaders. And then there's kind of this in-between from there. And don't worry, we're going to go into more detail into all these as we get to them. Excuse me. Then you have like these orange ones, right? The orange ones are kind of like this ability to flip on a switch into like more aggressive options, but they're very mid-rangey. So they can really match the flow of the game coming out of the top decks currently, like Sakazuki, Enel, and Purple Luffy. But then they have the ability to kind of flip on a switch at the end of the game and just go in for an alpha strike, as they call it in some games, like this double strike effect to just run them over. Then you have more of the controlling options, and that being, first let's talk about blue, actually, because blue is actually a big deal. I'll spend a little bit of time on this. Let me put my glasses on for a second. Blue is a really big deal right now because it has access to some of the best removal in the entire game in the form of Red Rock, 3000 Worlds, Hound Blaze, even though, other than outside of Sakazuki, you're only going to be hitting a 2 or less, but still think about it, guys, that still hits the brand new that's on Sakazuki's side. It still hits puddings. If you're playing against any kind of rogue Rosinante deck or any kind of Don Quixote deck, it's going to be able to hit like Sugars, the 2-cost blocker Rosinante, any of the small searchers. It does have utility. It is very solid. But then it has access to 3000 Worlds, Red Rock, Borsalino, the 7-cost, and 9-cost Mihawk. That is a very strong little curve we just mentioned right there, and all blue has access to that. They also have access to some really good top deck arranging, like Arranger top 5. And it just, blue is something to consider for now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because I think removal is actually more important than people realize right now. Excuse me, especially against Sakazuki. Sakazuki, in order to get a full efficiency from his cards, has to get them back from the trash. He has to. That's just how the deck runs. So if you can shut off their trash pile by bottom decking their most relevant cards, that can really hurt them. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and dive in. Let me keep going to the next color here. Purple also has access to bottom decking, not as much as blue does. It mainly just has access to Top Knot, but it also has access to Sheep's Horn and one of the best rushers in the game in whatchamacallem, 9-cost Kaido. Okay, so that is something we're going to talk about as well a little bit. And then last but not least, these are 2 cards that, well, there's 3 cards here, 3 leaders left that I really want to talk about, especially pink. These pink cards here, where you have blue, purple Kaido. Let me turn this into a pink, and then Crocodile. These 2 in particular, don't worry, I'll talk about black, yellow, Linlin in a minute. You guys know I'm not going to leave that out. That's the easy. Hey, if you just want to win nationals, just go black, yellow, Linlin, guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Chill out. But no, seriously, we will talk about black, yellow, Linlin in a minute. But real quick, with these 2 pink ones, blue, purple Kaido and blue, purple Crocodile, they have access to 3,000 Worlds and Top Knot. And Red Rock, of course, and Mihawk, and Borsalino, the 7-cost that bottom decks a 4 or less. And in the case of blue-purple Kaido up here, you have access to Who's Who and the entire Kaido package. Whatever Kaido cards you want to run, whatever, like, Queen, you name it, right? It has incredible search options. And I really think these are dark horses to cause some pretty big upsets. Okay, and then last but not least is of course, you know, everyone's favorite deck on this channel, or something like that, and that's Linlin. Let me put it down to black, yellow, Linlin. There we go. And that's the final one there. And I will talk about that. I've already talked about. I probably don't even need to talk about that one. Everyone knows what I feel about this. But I will start with that so we can move on from there. Just right away, I'm going to kind of like hit these across like this to each different, you know, leader. Against Katakuri, this is like a 50-50 matchup, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, if you go second against Katakuri as Tinlin, or as Black Yellow Linlin and drop Tinlin, you're doing just fine. Like, you definitely can compete with them. Now, yes, if they get an aggressive enough start on you and you don't get exactly what you need, it can get ugly. But this is a very doable matchup. Especially now that we're in OP05 and we have the answers we have. Like, just Gadatsu alone, we're popping anything they play on the first 3 turns. Just easily with Gadatsu. And then there's like one dead turn where we have 7 Dawn. And then we get to 9 Dawn and we have Yamato. And we can pop pretty much anything again. And the way that Black Yellow Linlin's running right now, it's running very differently. Okay, against Purple Luffy, this is an orange matchup. This is like a below average matchup for us. It's just an aggressive deck, and we're more controlling. So if they go too aggro against us, it's hard for us to keep up. That's all I'm going to say. Against Enel, this is a free game for us. Auto win against Enel. Unless you get super greedy and try to start beating up all their life and giving them triggers, which you should not be doing. And one more thing about Enel is I have seen like these hyper-aggressive Enel lists, you know, that and where they get the hyper-aggressive pull as well, where it's like turn 2 Ohm straight into Holly. You know, turn 2 Shura, or turn 1 Shura, turn 2 Ohm Holly, turn 3, you know, Gadatsu, turn 4 Enel, turn 5 Yamato. If they get the perfect curve, then yeah, it does hurt no matter what deck you're playing against, right? But that's Enel, right? That's what it does. But unless it gets the perfect curve, this is a pretty free matchup for us if you're playing properly. And then against Sakazuki, I'm going to say that the way that we're building it now, we're running the Sakazuki black package of Hina, Rebecca. We have Gadatsu for our removal. We have Hina, Rebecca, Manchuri, and then just tons of really strong removal. And our top end is just way better than Sakazuki's. So I actually think the matchup is like 50-50 nowadays, with our hardest matchup being Purple Luffy. Okay, I bet everyone's rolling their eyes at that. No one probably agrees with me, but hey, I'm telling you, just try it sometime. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, so now let me go backwards, like with what we're doing. So I'll just Control Z all these off. So now talking about the pink decks, like Kaido and Crocodile, they have access to some absolutely ridiculous removal. Like, I mean, just incredible removal in 3,000 Worlds and Top Knot. Those 2 in particular, I think, are just going to be big keys to being able to do something special, right? And then Crocodile is also Baroque Works, right? So if you need to, I have it up over here. I'm sorry, guys, I can't bring it over. Yeah, it's Baroque Works. So if I'm not mistaken, you can run Miss All Sunday with this as well, right? I'm just going to... Sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm typing over on the other side here. Yeah, you can run Miss All Sunday in this, the one that grabs back events. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to remove every single one of your cards and try to make it to the late game. And I just feel like this could be so powerful. I do, and I haven't had the time to play test this. Okay, I have not had the time to play test this, but I do think there's a lot of potential there if you're targeting the right cards to remove. Because Top Knot and 3000 Worlds is going to take every single one of Sakazuki's main cards out of the game, right? You're taking away their 3-cost Hinas, you're taking away their 4-cost Luchis and their 4-cost Rebekkas. Who cares about the Monchery? That thing hits, does its thing, and now you can just run it over with your leader. But getting rid of those Rebekkas and getting rid of the recursion is just insane. It's actually just so powerful. And then, of course, Kaido has access to the same thing we were just talking about, but he gets to have a bigger end on the end of the game where he can just play these cards that are just absolutely massive. Cards like 10-cost Kaido. 10-cost Kaido is not insane, but it is a good finisher. It is a great finisher, a way to just plop it down and KO everything on the board, right? Unless it can't be KO'd like Borsalino, obviously, or through a Sabo effect. But it still has access to the 9-cost, anything running purple has access to the 9-cost Kaido because it's not leader locked. Excuse me. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and look at, what is it? So the purple cards here, I'm just going to go through them one by one. Red Purple Law has a place. The problem is I don't think its matchup against Enel's that good. Okay, and I should say real quick, with Blue Purple Crocodile and Blue Purple Kaido, before I move on to Red Purple Law, I should mention how all their matchups are, at least what I predict. And I don't have tons of playtesting with all these. And if I mess anything up, just say something in the comment section below. I just ask, please be respectful. Like I said, I don't have time to playtest every single one of these decks against every single one of these leaders, right? So bear with me. These are just like my initial ideas on them. Like the Blue Purple Kaido and the Blue Purple Croc, I can imagine these actually being very good against Sakazuki. Because like I said, it's not a matter of like, how do you say this, being able to answer every card they play. It's having the ability to answer every card they play effectively by bottom decking it, where they don't get the recurring value from it. And then you just play into bigger characters where you drop down these cards where it costs them so much to get rid of your stuff. I do think they're decent against Blue Black Sakazuki. Enel and Katakuri is probably where they struggle because they can keep up with tempo. And then they have a really strong top end in Tinlin for Katakuri, and then Enel just has like this really strong ability to just survive. It's hard to finish him off. And when you're running decks that are not super fast, it can be hard against them. So against yellow, you're gonna need to save like, a 9-cost Rush Kaido or something to try to get the final blow in or something along those lines, and make sure you're removing everything like we're saying, because you need to play to your leader and your color's most powerful effects, right? You need to try to counter your opponent as best you can with what you have. I think against Purple Luffy, it's probably completely fine. There are some really fast starts for Purple Luffy that are hard to deal with, and if they start getting those Magellans off, it probably can get ugly. But overall, I think that's probably just a 50-50 matchup for them. Again, because they run purple, right? So if it's not a 50-50 matchup, you need to just make your adjustments. Maybe put in some of their package, put in some of the 4-cost Trafalgar Laws. Put in some of the 7-cost Eustace Kids, the 5-cost Eustace Kids, the 5-cost Queens. You should be able to keep up with Purple Luffy because you are sharing Purple Luffy's pool. And in my mind, I'm thinking, guys, if I'm making a blue-purple deck right now that I want to compete against the current meta, like the triangle meta, I want to run Purple Luffy's package, like his purple card character package, and then I want all the best removal from blue, right? That's kind of what's going through my head. Y'all tell me what y'all think. That's kind of the idea there. Okay, now over to Red-Purple Trafalgar Law. Red-Purple Trafalgar Law has the ability to be very aggressive and bottom deck anything in the game. So it's probably a decent matchup against Sakazuki, but against Purple it's probably decent as well because it can kind of just match aggression and remove some really annoying cards with like Gordon and anything like that, Gamma Knife, you name it. But against Yellow, I could see it stalling a little bit, especially against Enel, where it just kind of sits on that one life, and you finally take out their one life. You're like, okay, next turn I should be able to finish them. Because, I just went through all my Dawn. I'm down like 3 or 4 Dawn, and I'm going to finish them next turn. Nope, they drop down a Yamato, and then they eat up your entire board, and now you're like back to square one. It just feels horrible, I can imagine. So this might be a hard sell. Next up is Purple Kaido. My good buddy Joey over at Heart Pirates TCG. Go check him out if you haven't checked him out. Of course, me and him go to the same locals. That's my guy there. He played a Purple Kaido deck. He played a Purple Kaido deck to a first place at a locals recently. I think this leader is actually very good, and I'm not just saying that because my buddy played the deck. I'm looking at how the format is. Purple has access to remove cards to deal with Sakazuki and Top Knot, right? This card has the ability to crack the last life of Katakuris and Enels with his leader effect to just get those out of the way if you need to. With you know, the leader effect -7 Dawn to get a card out to KO one of their life cards or whatever. And then against purple, of course, like I said, it's going to be basically a 50-50 for the most part because you're running the same cards as them, right? It is what it is. And if I miss anything, guys, again, y'all help me out. Magellan can like be aggressive. It's almost... Here's the thing about purple Magellan right now. Why run this over purple Luffy? Because yes, you can get plus 1,000. You know, when you return a Dawn back, but you could just ramp Dawn with purple Luffy. So I do think this card's actually fine because it's basically just a different kind of version, maybe a slightly more aggressive version than purple Luffy. Maybe not though. I don't know. Again, I can never count Magellan out because he can get very, very hyper aggressive, and that Jailer Beast package is made for Impel Down. So he can do some really annoying things. But my only problem with purple, with Magellan is why run him over purple Luffy? That's kind of the logic in my head. But hey, if you just don't want to play the meta leaders and you like purple, well, Magellan will make you feel a little bit better about it, right? Where you're not running straight up, what do you call it? Straight up meta, but at the same time, you're kind of getting that effect. Okay, next up, or the last one of these purple ones, and by the way, Magellan, of course, does have access to Top Knot. So again, you're paying 2, I think you're returning 1 or 2 Dawn, and you're bottom decking a 4 or less. Not tapping. Like, Sheep's Horn is good, guys. Don't get me wrong. Sheep's Horn is very good, but you're bottom decking a 4 or less. That gets rid of a 4-cost Borsalino, the blocker. That gets rid of, you name it. And then you can still run purple Trafalgar Law in the deck like this to get some advantage that way in blockers. You can run Queen. You can run purple Kid, the Eustace Kid, the 5-drop and the 7-drop. It just has access to a ton of stuff. Same thing with purple green Doflamingo. You can run everything I just said from Magellan outside of like the Jailer Beast package, obviously, or the Impel Down package, obviously. But with him being green, now you have access to Don Quixote Doflamingo stuff. So you have access to of course, Doflamingo, Baby 5, Rosinante, Sugar. You have access to all this stuff, and then you can still run some of the really strong purple cards in that we were just talking about with 7-cost Kid, 5-cost Kid, and you can play it super defensively. And again, guys, with what I'm suggesting with all these purple lists, I'm suggesting you tech in Top Knot because I think it is going to be a strong, strong, strong answer for Sakazuki. It gets rid of the 3-cost pair of Sparrows. It can get rid of an Ohm. It can get rid of Holly, of course. It can get rid of Brûlés that are in your way. It's just very powerful, guys. It's very, very powerful. It's better than people think. I think it's better than people think. I should say it like that. Okay. And like I said, you need to be preparing when you're going to a tournament. Sometimes you have to especially cater your deck to deal with like certain matchups in particular. You're going to make small meta choices, micro choices, so that you have a better matchup against what you expect to play against. So if you're expecting to play against 50% Sakazuki, why would you not cater your deck to be a little bit better against Sakazuki? Do you see what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, please comment in the comment section below. Okay, next up we got Rosinante here. Same idea with the Doflamingo package where you're going to have... I think this is a sleeper. Like, I think... I'll say this till the end, but this is one of the decks I would run at a Nationals if I was trying to play off meta and I was trying to catch people off guard and still have a chance to win the whole thing. Rosinante, Black Yellow Linlin, I'll just say them right now. It's these 5 right here, I think, and maybe arguably 6 if you go with Queen. But like I'm saying, Rosinante, Doflamingo, Purple Green, Blue Purple Kaido or Croc, Blue Purple Croc, and Black Yellow Linlin. Those are like my 5 I'd go to, and then last but not least would be Queen. I just think they have something special that a lot of people aren't going to be ready for. And think about it. Everything I just told you, a good player is going to do what I told you, where they're going to be trying to adjust their deck to deal with Sakazuki, Katakuri, Purple Luffy, and Yellow Enel. So if you come in there with a Rosinante deck all of a sudden, and you're dropping 10-cost Doflamingos and 8-cost Kids, and you have Red Rocks and 3,000 Worlds and a whole Doflamingo package with Baby 5, you might really catch some people off guard, if you know what I'm saying. Same idea with Blue Purple Kaido and Blue Purple Croc. Okay, so good stuff there. Next up is Queen. I think Queen is just a solid control deck. I don't know how else to say it. You're going to gain life with you're going to buff your character. You're going to go really big into the late game with like huge characters that are hard to deal with. But it's just a matter of being able to set up on time. And generally speaking, I don't think Queen has a great matchup against Katakuri. It's very winnable. Like when I was playing Queen a lot in OP03 or OP04, whenever he hit, I can't remember. Whenever Queen hit, I was playing him a lot. I think it was OP04. Excuse me. And I was playing against Katakuri, and I was able to beat some pretty good Katakuri players. But it was like a 50-50 matchup. It really depended on how things went. But I think for Queen, Purple Luffy seems very aggressive against it and hard to, same thing with Enel. If they can go like double characters on the board, that's where it gets ugly. Like if they can go Ohm plus Holly, if they can go Ulti plus page 1, or Uda. No, yeah, Ulti, excuse me. If they can go Ulti plus page 1, or Ohm plus Holly and get this like super powerful starts, that's where it can kind of get ugly. Because when you can swing really wide against Queen, same thing with Sakazuki, by the way. Sakazuki can kind of do the same thing. If you can swing really wide against Queen, it starts hurting a lot. It starts hurting a lot. So that's something to look out for. But I do think the deck still has a chance. Blue Doflamingo, I think this is just going to be this is like one of the best leaders that starts off on turn 1, other than obviously like Katakuri. Like I think Katakuri is one of the best turn 1 start, or turn 1. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Odd curves, excuse me, guys. I'm trying to say it's one of the best odd curve leaders you can have. Gecko Moria will be like this in OP06, I'm sure. But Katakuri and Doflamingo are probably the best leaders in the game right now at starting on the odd curve, like going first, in other words. So this is just a great leader to have. It can still go second and get your opponent off going second, but at the same time, it's just a very powerful leader to have. And it has access to a really strong, what's it called, 7 Warlords of the Sea package. You're going to have good blockers in there to slow down your opponent. It has some of the best removal in the game, obviously, because it's blue. It's going to top out with Mihawks and potentially Kaidos, and it could just whittle your opponent down. So I think this will be a very strong... anything that can run 3,000 worlds, guys, I'm just going to say it like this. Anything that can run 3,000 worlds is going to have a chance into this meta. Because a 4-cost bottom deck of 5 or less that can hit any trigger in Katakuri or Enel, like any trigger in Katakuri or Enel is gone. Any of the 5-cost blockers or less from Purple Luffy, and any of the 4-cost major targets that we were looking at for Purple, or for Sakazuki and Hina, where it's like it can hit the Rebecca, it can hit the Lucci, and it can hit the Hina. So it's going to be able to remove like some really, really important cards with that, and then it's going to keep a solid tempo the whole time. And its top end is Mihawk, and it has access to Borsalino if you need, wink, wink, you're about to go into a very heavy Sakazuki format here. So maybe 7-cost Borsalino that bottom decks of 4 or less would be a pretty good plan to run in this kind of deck, right? Because you're going to be able to hit like 90% of their deck, 90% of the relevant targets and everything. So really good stuff there. Next up is not these last 3. We are going to talk about some of these others. But Rob Lucci, Kuro, and Captain Kidd... I think these are not great choices, but they're always like these decent choices. And if people aren't used to playing against decks like especially Kid and Lucci, they're going to have, you might be able to totally catch people off guard and sneak some wins against them. But my biggest problem is I don't know how well they're going to do into I don't know. It's one of those things where once you do get maybe to the higher tables, they're going to know how to play around your double strike. And it just kind of hampers, it just kind of hinders you. But I'm just going to say this. There are certain times where I know I think it was the end of last set, like OP04, all of a sudden Eustace Kid was kind of popping up and, doing well with I think it was with a Supernova film package, or maybe it was just film. I think it was either a Supernova plus film package or just a film package. And it was kind of popping off. Like I said, it was doing very well in tournaments. And I probably should have put Kinemon in here as well. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I couldn't include everyone. But I could see where those could be decent off-meta choices that are going to be very fun and at least be somewhat competitive, somewhat viable into the format. So, last but not least of all the off-meta ones, Newgate, Bello Betty, Ace, and Zoro. I'm not going to talk about Newgate and Zoro. We all know what those are. Excuse me. But Ace and Bello Betty. Okay, Bello Betty is kind of strong, right? Like it can be pretty strong into Sakazuki because it doesn't give it time to set up, especially if you get decent triggers. But at the same time, I've seen it just brick, right? Like I've seen Bello Betty just simply brick. It happens. And at the same time, against a deck like Enel, it can kind of stall it out. Not always. I'm not saying it can always do that, but I feel like it can kind of stall it out if needed. So it is a tough choice, but at the same time, this is one of those like high risk, high reward decks, in my opinion, where like if you're feeling lucky that day, like you're ready to go bet the lottery that day, Bello Betty, you might just get those pulls that are just crazy, just unstoppable pulls where you're just doing what you can. But again, I don't think this is the greatest pick, but it would be an interesting pick, and I'm not saying it's bad. Like, it can definitely be somewhat viable, I think. Okay. Ace is a very high skill level deck. But I think it can do very well. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't really know what to even say about it. I'm going to be honest, because you can double strike. You can get your double strikes off against most of these decks. Like, I think against Sakazuki, which Sakazuki only runs like 8 to 10 counters, guys. Only 8 to 10 2K counters. So if you go Flame Emperor with Ace, as long as there's no blocker in your way, obviously, you're probably getting a double attack off and popping one of their characters. My only problem with Ace is this. It has decent board clear, too, if you're running the, what's it called? It's a Fire Fist. It's the one that, I think it's called Fire. There's like 2 Fire Fists in the game now. It's the one that can hit 2 targets. Hang on one second. I got it over here, guys. Yeah, it's the 3-cost Fire Fist from Whitebeard Pirates, where it's like, okay, trash an event, you can KO a 5K or a 4K. Like, that's going to be very good. And there's also another event in the game now that can pop. It's like it has a trigger where it can pop a 0. I think it's Revolutionary Army. Here, let me bring that up real quick as well. Sorry, guys, I got it right here. I do apologize. Oh, it's also Fire Fist. It was the other Fire Fist. So you're going to be able to run both of the Fire Fists and like probably get some decent value out of them potentially, and you can always cycle them through with your Leader's Effect and whatnot. But the Fire Fist is the other one, the new one that came out in OP05, is give up to one of your opponents minus 4,000 power during this turn. Then if you have 2 or less life, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0 or less, or with a power of 0 or less, excuse me. And of course, activate the triggers, activate the main. So this is going to allow you to play around like Rebecca's and stuff and get those out of your way for your big double attacks. So I do think this character can do well, but you're on a clock. I'm going to say it like that, because once you start letting Blue-Black Sakazuki generate value, that's where he can get back in the game. Like, okay, cool, you're getting rid of their blockers, but then he drops a Manshuri, gets it back a Rebecca, and then with Rebecca plays out like a Bartolomeo or like a Sabo or whatever else. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know you can't do all that in one turn. You can't do like 2 for, like, pay 1 for Manshuri, pay 1 to activate, 4 for Rebecca, and then you only have 4 left. But then they'll play out a Borsellino or something, right? Like, you guys see what I'm trying to say. There's a lot going on there, and I feel like you're on a clock, but I don't think it's that bad of a choice. I think Ace can do something, but it's going to require an extremely good pilot and a little bit of fortune on your side, like a little bit of good fortune on your side, especially when you start going against the yellow decks where Enel's going to start, recurring his last life. Katakuri is going to start gaining life. Then you're dealing with triggers the entire time. It can become a nightmare very quickly. But it is still something that's very interesting, and who knows, maybe it could be something very good. All right, guys, that's it, because the rest of these are the 4 or the 3, well, I should just say 4, because it's like Katakuri and Enel, and then Purple Luffy and Sakazuki. And that's about it, guys. If I missed anything, please don't hesitate to comment in the comment section down below. Help me out. I'm just a human. I hope this helped. Like I said, hopefully it gave some ideas. I just want to, kind of end my video by saying removal against Sakazuki is the most important thing. If you can get rid of their recursion stuff with 3,000 Worlds and with Top Knot, like permanently get rid of their Rebeccas, their Hinas, and their Luccis, that's where you can start, getting somewhere in the game. And that's where I think blue and purple in particular have a strange advantage in the current meta, like in going into this tournament. I'm not saying they're like these incredibly great decks overall where you're going to go to a local and do fine. Because guess what? You might go to a local and get blown out of the water by a Bello Betty deck, right? But that's the whole thing. Excuse me. You're going these decks to counter what's in the meta, which is supposed to be Sakazuki, Katakuri, Enel, and Luffy. Like, that's why you're playing these decks. So it's fine, theoretically, it's fine if your matchup is like a 0% win chance against blue-green Sanji. You see what I'm saying? I know that's a crazy example, but it doesn't matter what your win chance is against a deck no one's going to play. You just need to try to cater your deck to Sakazuki, Katakuri, Enel, and Luffy. Okay, now it is what it is. You know, that's a gamble in and of itself, right? It's a gamble in and of itself to not play the meta decks. I'm just going to say that. So yes, you do have to, if you're not going to play meta decks, you also have to take the gamble that you might play against a non-meta deck. Like you might go against Kuro randomly at the tournament, or Rob Lucci, or Zoro, or whoever. You might go against a black-yellow Linlin. I doubt it. Not enough people are playing black-yellow Linlin. I wish more people were. Hopefully someone does. You know, I'd really like to interview whoever was like the top placing black-yellow Linlin at Nationals whenever it's all said and done. So... okay, guys, I'm done rambling. This is one of the longest videos I've done in a while. Not the longest I've ever done for a video, but this is one of the longer videos I've done in a while. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry if I didn't cover your leader. If I didn't cover your leader and you want to know my thoughts on it, post down in the comment section below or hop on the Discord, and we will definitely talk about it. So that's it. That's enough for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.